It started with a whisper at a charity gala. Not a dramatic confrontation, not a shouted accusation, but something far more dangerous in the world of Hollywood and royalty. A polite, icy distance that everyone noticed. And then, one of the most respected men in the room allegedly said the one thing that no one in the elite circles of Montecito ever says out loud. But before we get to that line, the one that reportedly sent shockwaves from Santa Barbara all the way to Buckingham Palace, we need to understand why this isn't just about a party snub. This is about the collapse of a carefully constructed empire. And according to insiders, we are watching the beginning of the end for the Sussex brand as we know it. But hold that thought, because what Kevin Costner allegedly said next ties this story to a scandal that has already destroyed one royal's career, and it might just be the final nail in the coffin for another. Let's set the scene. The 1805 Live benefit in Santa Barbara. In Hollywood, a charity event is never just a charity event. It's a boardroom meeting in black tie attire. It's where the gatekeepers, the producers, the financiers, the people who decide who gets the next franchise and who gets the cold shoulder, determine who is in and who is out. Kevin Costner, who is essentially the king of Hollywood royalty at this point, the man who defined the American frontier on screen, was hosting. He owns the space. He controls the guest list. And according to multiple sources who were in the room that night, when the topic of future gatherings came up, Costner made his stance clear regarding Meghan Markle. He reportedly stated bluntly that she would not be welcome at his future events. Now, for those of you thinking, okay, so a guy didn't get an invite to a barbecue, who cares? Let me explain why this is a massive deal. In the world of A-list influence, exclusion is the loudest sound there is. You don't build a $100 million Netflix deal by being the person who isn't invited to the ranch. For the past few years, Harry and Meghan have been trying to rebrand themselves as the ultimate power couple of California. They left the firm to become financially independent and to build a life in the entertainment industry. But here's the catch. The entertainment industry is a social sport. If Kevin Costner, a man with no agenda, no tabloid vendetta, just pure old-school Hollywood clout, decides you aren't part of his circle, other people start to notice. It creates a ripple effect. But the interaction between Meghan and Costner at the actual event is where the tension becomes palpable. Witnesses described their exchange as, well, awkward is too kind of a word. It was cold. It was the kind of interaction where two people speak because the cameras are on, but the second the flash dies, they're 10 feet apart. There was no warmth, no lingering. It was transactional. And in a town built on relationships, that chill is a warning sign. It's the social equivalent of a stock market dip right before a crash. Here is where the story takes a turn from gossip column drama into something that has reportedly sent legal teams scrambling. According to the claims circulating, Costner allegedly didn't just stop at excluding her from the party. He allegedly made a comment linking Meghan Markle to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. I want to be very careful here, as we always are. There are no confirmed facts linking Meghan to Epstein. This is a rumor that has existed in the darker corners of the internet for a while. But what changes the game here is the source of the alleged comment. When a two-time Oscar winner with a squeaky clean reputation repeats a rumor, it stops being internet noise and starts becoming a career-defining implication. Why is this so dangerous? Because we've seen this movie before. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal didn't just ruin reputations, it effectively ended the public life of Prince Andrew. It forced him out of the royal family, stripped him of his patronages, and created a permanent stain on the monarchy that King Charles has been trying to scrub away for years. So for someone to associate the Duchess of Sussex with that same web of scandal, it's like throwing a lit match into a room filled with gasoline. The royal family, who have been largely silent on the Sussexes since the Oprah interview, suddenly have a vested interest in this narrative because it directly threatens the institution they are trying to stabilize. Now, let's talk about the fallout, because this is where the dopamine hits start stacking up. In the days following the event and the circulation of these claims, Hollywood went quiet. And when Hollywood goes quiet, it means the sharks are circling. Executives, producers, and brand managers reportedly started reassessing their relationships with the couple. Why? Because the entertainment industry is perhaps the most risk-averse industry on the planet. There's a reason why every major contract has a morality clause these days. If you are a brand and you are attached to a figure who is being publicly linked to the Epstein scandal, even if it's unsubstantiated, you run. You run fast. Let's pause for a second to appreciate the irony here. Meghan Markle and Harry left the UK because they said the royal family was too toxic, too controlling, and too full of palace intrigue. They wanted to be free. They wanted to be in Hollywood, where they could control their own narrative. And now, they are finding out that Hollywood is actually more brutal than the monarchy. In the monarchy, if you mess up, you get sent to a castle in the countryside. In Hollywood, if you mess up, you disappear. There is no mercy. And right now, the biggest question hanging over their heads is the Netflix deal. That deal was supposed to be their legacy. But if the industry starts to view the Sussex brand as radioactive, Netflix has a very easy button to press: cancel. But we're not done. Because while this is happening in California, across the pond in London, England, something much older and far more terrifying is reportedly stirring. According to sources close to the palace, advisors have been dusting off the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917. Yes, you heard that right, an act from World War I. For those who aren't royal history buffs, this law was originally created to strip German princes of their British titles during the war. It has been largely dormant for over a century, but now it's allegedly being looked at as a potential tool to handle the Sussex situation. Imagine the conversation in the palace corridors. King Charles is dealing with his own health issues. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has stepped back from duties. The monarchy is stretched thin, trying to maintain relevance. And now there is a growing concern that the behavior and the reputational risks coming out of Montecito could splash back onto the crown. The thought process is reportedly this: if the Sussexes are going to be involved in controversies that tie back to the royal family, perhaps the safest thing to do is to formally, legally sever the tie. Removing their titles would be the ultimate act of separation. It would signal to the world that the institution is protecting itself. Now, let's be clear. Invoking the Titles Deprivation Act is not easy. It would require a report to the Privy Council, approval from the government, and likely a debate in Parliament. It would be a political firestorm. But the fact that it's even being whispered about in the halls of power tells you everything you need to know about how serious the situation is perceived to be. This isn't about a family squabble anymore. This is about the stability of an institution. The monarchy has survived for 1,000 years because it knows when to cut a limb to save the body. But here is the human element that makes this story heartbreaking. Let's talk about Prince Harry. Look at his recent public appearances. He was in Angola recently, walking in the footsteps of his mother, Princess Diana, highlighting landmine clearance efforts. He was at the Invictus Games, surrounded by veterans who adore him. In those moments, he looks comfortable. He looks like the Harry we remember, the one who served his country, the one who was a beloved member of the royal family. And then he has to fly back to California. There is a growing narrative that Harry is being pulled in two directions. On one side, you have the path of service, the path of his mother, the path that gave him purpose. On the other side, you have the Hollywood machine. And right now, the Hollywood machine is sputtering. The deals aren't delivering the hits they promised. The invitations are drying up. And the man who is supposed to be his partner in all of this is at the center of a reputational storm that even the most seasoned PR crisis managers are calling unsalvageable. What makes this situation different from the previous controversies is the source. For years, whenever a negative story came out about Meghan, her team would point to the British tabloids. They would say it's racism, it's bias, it's the palace feeding stories. And for a large portion of the American audience, that argument worked. But you can't blame the British tabloids for Kevin Costner. You can't blame the British tabloids for Hollywood executives getting cold feet. This is happening on their own turf. This is their own industry, their own friends allegedly closing the doors. And here is where my personal analysis comes in. There is a level of tragedy here that I think we often overlook because the drama is so entertaining. Meghan Markle, whatever your opinion of her,
entered this world thinking she could merge the prestige of royalty with the power of celebrity. In theory, it's a brilliant idea. A royal with a Hollywood agent? Unstoppable. But in practice, the two worlds don't mix. Royalty requires stoicism, humility in the face of service, and a very specific kind of silent dignity. Hollywood requires visibility, self-promotion, and a constant need to be in the spotlight. You can't have both. And for the last few years, they've been trying to have both, and it looks like the plates are finally crashing to the floor. The irony of the situation with Kevin Costner is that he is the perfect representation of old-school masculinity and integrity in Hollywood. He's the guy who made Dances with Wolves, who fought for Yellowstone, who doesn't need to chase fame because fame chases him. When someone like that allegedly draws a line in the sand, it's not petty, it's a statement of values. He is essentially saying, "This is my house, and I don't